Welcome to Smells Like Potential, the rewatch podcast you didn't know you needed. We're now entering season 2 with Goodbye Earl. It's a darker, edgier season with a new villain emerging while our team plays an EFL championship. Rebecca protects the team dynamics by keeping all the players. Danny experiences a difficult moment on the pitch that stays with him. And Roy starts his coaching career. It's already going for a cup.
And I also noticed something. Remember how first season began on Rebecca's face and then ended on Rebecca's face with fizzy water all over it? This season, we start with a close up on Nate's face. And so it forces us to ask, are we going to see Nate's face at the end of this season?
Mm.
If so, who's the third season face going to be? Is this a pattern? Spoiler, it is. That was a deliberate choice by the creators. He also starts tormenting Will even more so than we saw in the last season. He uses the phrase, you got to stay on him. Pressure makes pearls, which he realizes is not what makes pearls. That's what makes diamonds. It's still wrong thinking. It's sort of the anti Ted. He motivates through fear and torment, and obviously Ted motivates based on empathy.
A whole lot of needing to control the scenarios and the situations around him. And I don't know if that is a lack of confidence in self. But why would Nate be so inflexible with the person that held his former role?
I think you've answered your own question. How many times have leaders been promoted and it's so hard to let go of that other role? You see it being done differently and you go, that's not the way I would do it. So I think it's an important sort of anti lesson for leaders for how to delegate, how to appreciate a different perspective. But I'm super excited because we get another musical theater reference. This one is a little subtle, it's easy to miss. It's really for folks that are fans of a show that got really big really quick a few years ago. And it starts with Ted saying a natural phrase, can I get real for a second? Beard immediately catches it. Then Ted says, forget my meal a second. Beard jumps in and says, put down your beer and tell your buddy how you feel a second.
I knew it right away. Can I be real a second? For just a millisecond? Let down my guard and tell the people how I feel a second? It's Hamilton, hands down.
Yes. Yes. And so I was excited too. I love the show. It's George Washington who's in that particular moment. I just think it's amazing how well they crafted the other line, right? You and I counted. It's the same number of syllables exactly. It's the same cadence. It's the same rhythm. They slip in the word meal a second to substitute for millisecond, which is pretty brilliant. And it all comes from the song Right Hand Man.
Are
Mhm.
they telling us something?
I think so, because they're referring in this case to Hamilton as the right hand man, but who's Ted's right hand man? And I would say at this moment, it's Nate. Could be Beard. You could argue that. I think Nate has been built up as this tactical genius. This brings me to Star Wars. I know you're going to say, how does that bring you to Star Wars, Mike? Well,
Everything brings you to Star Wars, let's
everything
be
goes back to Star
honest.
Wars. But the creators have acknowledged that the structure of the 3 season arc is meant to mirror the 3 movie arc of the original Star Wars trilogy. It's not a perfect fit, but in this episode, Ted is actually quoted as saying, don't you fret, Boba Fett, which is also, of course, an Empire Strikes Back reference. It's the second film in the Star Wars trilogy. And so it's why we named this episode of our podcast Empire Strikes Back, because it's also mentioned by Leslie. He's going to go home and watch it with his boys. And he talks about how he's going to have to then explain why Luke and Leia kiss.
Oh,
Uh,
no.
yes. So in Empire Strikes Back, our Luke, which is a substitute for Ted, actually loses his right hand. It's cut off by Darth Vader. And here, Ted loses his right hand man, which is in the Hamilton reference. So I don't know if I'm stretching it too far, but I think there's a Star Wars link there. And then, of course, later, when talking about ties, there is the kiss your sister connection, right? The generally used phrase of kiss your sister that to describe a tie.
I have never heard this phrase before. Literally, the first time I heard it was when Ted said it, and I reacted the same way that the team reacted. What? What is kiss your sister?
It's a real phrase. I grew up hearing it, and when describing ties, I thought it was weird, but whatever. And
I played several sports. as a child. Not once. Anybody ever say, "Kiss your sister"?
It's meant to be sort of when you get something that seems good on the surface, but is really not good.
I gotta know from our listeners, have you actually heard this phrase in sports, and what sport were you playing when you heard it? I have no idea where this phrase came from. Brand new to me. I'm a little flummoxed by it.
Well, in any case, it's nice to see that Rebecca is continuing to adopt Ted's positivity. She's fully
Mm,
converted from being the villain of the first season. And she actually says, when he talks about how he cannot get over this 7 streak tie that they're on, she says, well, we're still undefeated, which is a nice way of looking at it, right?
right? It's that perspective that he brings because he is not a seasoned coach yet, and she referred back to that in the last
Yes.
episode.
Yep.
You create confusion, so she's looking at it from a different perspective.
It is something just to note that in soccer, you get 3 points for a win and 0 points for a loss, but 1 point for a tie. So 7 streak tie is the equivalent to almost 2.5 wins. So she's not wrong. They are still moving somewhat in the standings above those teams that are losing a lot of games.
So a winning team would have 21 points at this
Yeah.
stage,
Yep.
and they have 7 points.
7.
So do we think they are solidly in the middle of the table, or do we think they're at the bottom of the table?
They're probably in the bottom half. I mean, it's not great to be in the EFL and still not be at the top when you've just been relegated from the Premier League. It's pretty bad news.
So that might help us with some mindset as we move forward as well, understanding where they are in Championship League. And Rebecca, there's been a big focus for her moving forward with dating. One of the best lines at this dinner date, Rebecca's looking for, what do we think of Mr. Wings Night? Roy says this line, "Don't you dare settle for fine." Chef's kiss.
Yes.
Amazing advice.
And what follows is also amazing too. He says they should make you feel like you've been struck by lightning. It's what he's aspiring to. And I really love looking at Keely's face as he says that. She's turning to her boyfriend, who she loves, and it looks like she's falling in love with him all over again. He doesn't have to say anything other than, oh, yeah, I know he's nice. He's nice. He's a good guy. And reassure their mutual friend. But no, he steps up and says, nope, nope, nope. So it demonstrates Roy has deep respect for Rebecca as a leader and as a woman who should really demand more than this lukewarm milk toast guy.
That loves musicals.
Yes, big musical fan. So there are other musical references that I skipped, mostly because I just don't like this character. But he talked about Martin Short, and he talks about a couple other anecdotes in this episode. Yeah, we just left those out.
Right? Other new faces. Who else did we get to meet?
Oh, we got to meet Jan Maas. He's a Dutchman. He's sort of blunt in his assessment of the most recent game. He says it out loud to Colin. Sam steps up to protect him and say, he's not being rude. He's just being Dutch.
Oh no. There is something to be said about honesty versus bluntness. We also meet another new character, Dr. Sharon Fieldstone, and the fans online believe that Dr. Sharon is a reference to Sleepless in Seattle's Dr. Marcia Fieldstone.
And who is that? Is that the Meg Ryan?
No, Dr. Marcia Fieldstone is the on-air therapist. Jonah the son in Sleepless in Seattle calls this radio talk show host that is a therapist to complain about the woman that his father is dating. So Tom Hanks's character has to talk to this Dr. Marcia Fieldstone, and he is not comfortable talking to a stranger on the air about his dating life. So, something we might be able to look forward to is more references to romantic comedies.
I think that might be coming. And then here was a fun little moment. You, I think, caught this before I did, but there was a moment in this episode where Ted says, "What you talking about, Willis?" Which is obviously a quote from Different Strokes, a classic 80s sitcom. We just sort of left it at that. He's using one of his Tedisms. And then fast forward, it is something that we discover, I think, at the very last episode of the last season, of the third season. It's actually Coach Beard's first name.
They
So,
gave us a spoiler, and we had no idea.
yeah, it was a stealth spoiler.
That is amazing because I immediately thought of Different Strokes, also a child of the '80s. Anytime anybody said, "What you talking about, Willis?" Gary Coleman,
Mhm.
bam. Yeah.
Yeah. And to test that, all you have to do is stand near someone who grew up in the 80s and just say the first part, what you talking about? And then they will fill in the last word for you. You know, okay, they grew up in the right decade.
It's a call and response.
Yes, it is.
And we did get some books in our book club. What was
Yeah.
Beard reading?
Yeah. Coach Beard is reading The Greatest, The Quest for Sporting Perfection by Matthew Syed. It explores the mental side of sports, which is generally more the TED side of the things. Coach is usually more of the strategist, right? He's not the mental side of it. So this book is a departure for him. But it's a collection of columns and it analyzes psychology, relentless practice, and culture and how they all drive athletic success.
So it's a hint about what's to come for the overarching theme for this season. We're talking about mental health, psychology, and culture
Same episode where we meet Dr. Fieldstone, and
back to
boom,
back.
he's reading about mental health. And it is interesting too that she was called out just to talk to Danny, but finding that other players wanted to talk to her as well. She ends up being a recurring character, much to Ted's chagrin.
I love that she is multilingual. Floored. Helping people where they feel most comfortable. Like, fantastic character.
Yeah, and it's not just Spanish and French; it's French Canadian. She speaks the Quebec.
Quebecois,
Yeah,
which is really impressive. And then Cristo Fernandez, our beloved Danny Rojas, has written a children's book. It's a new bilingual book that's been released. It's called Football is Life. And it is inspired by Cristo's life being a soccer player, getting hurt, and how he dealt with that by trying to learn new things. So, if you're on the lookout for a fun children's book, find Cristo Fernandez's Football is Life, fully bilingual, written in both Spanish and English.
that news popped up right after we had told the story in our Football is Life episode about how it was his creation and he didn't realize it because now in the book tour, he's talking about that when they ask, how did you come up with the phrase? How did you title the book? It's real life that we're talking about. There's no mention of a book by Tanny in this episode.
Maybe it's a season 4 suggestion box. Let the players be authors.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you tomorrow for our reaction to season 2, episode 2, Lavender. And our outro quote today is from Ted. It's funny to think about things in your life that can make you cry just knowing that they existed, can then become the same thing that make you cry knowing that now they're gone.